Okay, here we are. So I've prepared something to say, and then we have a couple of prayers and a couple of songs, and then there will be a moment where if anyone wants to say anything, they will be welcome to say what they need to say. I have never known anyone quite like my Grandma Nita. Some would say they broke the mold making her. As a child, I remember her being jovial, stern, loud, and a lover of elephants. As I grew older and learned more about the family history and about some of the choices Grandma Nita made throughout her life, the more puzzling she became to me. I could never understand why she did some of the things she did, and it pained me greatly to see the wounds in our family. Over time, I came to realize what many others in the family had already known, that perhaps Nita was simply incapable of understanding how her actions affected others. One belief that I hold and wanted to share is the idea that in the next world, the world of the spirit, we will understand how our actions have affected others. We will feel the joy and happiness we brought to the hearts of others, and we will feel the hurt we caused others. I believe this is why God implores all of us to be kind to everyone. Perhaps we can find peace and comfort in knowing that Juanita's soul has been released and that she now understands the effect her choices have had on her loved ones. It is not my intention today to speak ill of my grandmother. She was an energetic, robust, strong-minded, and determined woman, full of exuberance and personality. She was skilled in many crafts and loved sharing her gifts with others. What I want to offer today is the notion that in her passing, she has left us with another gift, one she may have been unable to give during her life. A catalyst for healing and an opportunity for forgiveness. Sometimes it can be hard to forgive. As we say goodbye to Juanita, let us remember that we are defined not by our circumstances and struggles, but by how we choose to navigate them. It's never too late to choose forgiveness. Colossians chapter 3, verse 13 reads, "Make allowance for each other's faults, and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others."
This is a prayer for the departed. O my God, O forgiver of sins and dispeller of afflictions, O thou who art pardoning and merciful, I raise my suppliant hands to thee, tearfully beseeching the court of thy divine essence to forgive, through thy mercy and pardon, thy handmaiden who hath ascended unto the seat of truth. Cause her, O Lord, to be overshadowed by the clouds of thy bounty and favor. Immerse her in the ocean of thy forgiveness and clemency, and enable her to enter the sanctified abode, thy heavenly paradise. Thou art verily the mighty, the compassionate, the generous, the merciful. One of Juanita's favorite songs was the Lord's Prayer, as sung by her sister June. Since June could not be here today, we have a recording of the song which she liked that we will play next.
Is that from my wedding? That was from my wedding. I had to pay for June.
Hallowed be
If anyone would like to say anything, now is...
I would like to say a few things, and the first thing I want to say is thank you, Mark. I want to everybody know that I appreciate what he's done. My mother was the most puzzling person in my life, and I've spent all of my life trying to figure out her and what I don't want to say motivated her, but whatever. And I found a few things that make sense to me. And so I want to share them in case they may help anybody else make sense to her. Grandma turned to me one time when I was in high school and she said, "I never imagined so much fury could come from someone so small." And I had no context for that, so I didn't know what to do with it. But then I learned that when Mom was about 3, Grandma was decided or whatever that she could not carry out a plan that she wanted to do. She wanted to run away from home, take the 2 babies, she had 2 babies in 2 years, and go back to Daddy. And then she found out she was pregnant, and she couldn't do that with being pregnant or doing with 3 kids, so she went to bed. And that left Mom at 3, knowing she could almost do things, almost do this, but Mama was in bed and she wasn't doing them. And so she became frustrated and would just, that's all she could do. I mean, a 3-year-old, what do? They just cry and scream, and that's what Mom did. And so then I had to go a little bit backwards and found out why would Grandma have gone to bed and stayed there for so long. And when Grandma was about 8, her mother died. And not only did her mother die, her mother and Grandma and her sister all had typhoid fever, according to the newspaper. Then her mother died, the 2 girls got well, but before Grandma got well, her mama had died, and her father, Grandma's grandfather, had come down from Holton to get the body of his daughter, and he took the body, and Grandma's father went with her, and Aunt Reba, Grandma's little sister, they all left her with the newspaper said, a trained nurse. Well, that wasn't Mama, that wasn't Daddy. And so she was doubly deserted by her mama dying and then everybody else in the family leaving. And so I believe that she was depressed the rest of her life. And Aunt Reba said that after their mom died and they would be working in the field, their dad would send Grandma to the house to fix a meal, and they would come in later and the stove was still cold and there was no food cooked and Grandma was in bed asleep, because how can an 8-year-old take over Mama's job? So it was too much for her, so she went to bed, and that became her only coping device. So when she later realized she was trapped with 2 babies and in-laws right next door, and she wanted to go home to Daddy, and then she realized she couldn't, so she went to bed. And that left Mom helpless, and so someone said she was traumatized and she never got past that trauma. And so then I began to picture my mother in her rages and in her concentration periods and in her decisions makings, and when I visualized her as a 3-year-old, it all made sense. It didn't make it any easier, but it made sense. And so I'm able to live with that. And I would like to share a prayer that I find very special, since I miss my daddy, and now I can know where my mother is. O Lord, in this most great dispensation, Thou dost accept the intercession of children in behalf of their parents. This is one of the special infinite bestowals of this dispensation. Therefore, O Thou kind Lord, accept the request of this Thy servant at the threshold of Thy singleness, and submerge his father and mother in the ocean of Thy grace, because this Son hath arisen to render Thee service, and is exerting effort at all times in the pathway of Thy love. Verily Thou art the giver, the forgiver, and the kind.
I'd like to take this moment to discuss my feelings about Juanita. There's been a lot of things that happened over the years. What I'm deciding to remember her by is my good memories of her. Grandma stayed with me when I had to go to the dentist as a very young child and was scared. I was always excited to have Grandma spend the night at Christmas. We all know she had a lot of grandkids, so presents weren't usually much to brag about, but I always liked my tube of Avon chapstick and bubble bath. Remember, it said it is not for us to judge the quality of her life because no one can control the cards they are dealt. But we can control our reactions, including how we decide to remember Juanita.
No one else would like to say anything. I have, I thought of something yesterday that I thought would be a nice gesture. So if everybody would just, this is rose quartz.
It feel good.
So this is rose quartz. Rose quartz is actually a symbolic of forgiveness and unconditional love. I figured there wouldn't be more than 25 people, based on my estimates. Okay, so I would like for everybody to hold their piece of rose quartz and to think of a burden in your heart that could be released today through forgiveness. Whatever it is, I want you to think of it and shift that weight from your heart to the rose quartz in your hand. And take whatever time you need. I will leave this here. Mom made these programs so you can come and grab one of these and return this here. And as you return it, I want you to imagine yourself letting go of that, letting go of any weight, anything that's weighing on your heart, because in reality, we don't need those burdens. And forgiveness is something that can help us relieve those burdens. If you want a piece of rose quartz to keep, I also have extra pieces. You can ask me about that. And that's all I have. Juanita had one other song she requested, and I think all of you might know what one that is.
Well, now everybody's gonna have religion and glory. Everybody's gonna be singing that story. Everybody's gonna have a wonderful time.
I always wanted the city funeral since I was a kid.
Better get ready, 'cause I'm giving you the warning. Everybody's gonna have a wonderful time up there. Now listen, everybody, 'cause I'm talking to you. The Lord is the only one to carry you through. You better get ready, 'cause I'm telling you why. The Lord is coming from his throne on high. Going down the valley, going one by one. We're gonna be rewarded for the things we've done. How are you gonna feel about the things you'll say on that judgment day? Well, everybody's gonna have religion and glory. Everybody's gonna be singing that story. Everybody's gonna have a wonderful time up singing that story. Everybody's gonna have a wonderful time up there. Oh, glory, hallelujah, brother, there's a reckoning coming in the morning. Better get ready, cause I'm giving you the warning. Everybody's gonna have a wonderful time up there. Well, everybody's gonna have religion and glory. Everybody's gonna be singing that story. Everybody's gonna have a wonderful time up there. Oh, glory, hallelujah, brother, there's a reckoning coming in the morning. Better get ready, cause I'm giving you the warning. Everybody's gonna have a wonderful time up there.
Yeah, I went to the nursing home to get her clothes, which had already been, they'd already been dispersed. So, which is, okay, that's fine. Anyway, I was talking to the gal on her wing, Cottonwood, and her name was Virginia?
Virginia.
Yeah. Anyway, she said her introduction to Mother was, she came in the sitting room or something, Mother was leading everybody in heaven there is no beer, that's why we drink it here. And I thought, that was one of my college drinking songs. And she said, that's how I met your mother. And I'm like, okay. She made a good impression. But anyway, I thought that was
Well, and I
kind
asked
of
her
interesting.
because one of the ladies there referred to that. There was somebody playing some country music down in the dining area, and they mentioned, they said, well, maybe they'll bring your or maybe they'll be able to play your beer drinking song. And I said, Juanita, when did you ever drink a beer? And she says, oh, I don't think I have.
Yeah, I never tasted beer. But boy, she was drinking, and everybody was joining in. So she made a, she makes herself known.
Yes.
Wherever she is, that she is there.
One thing we can all be thankful for her for is this wonderful crowd right here.
Yeah.
She's responsible for most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good crowd.
And a little bit more.
So she did some good.
Trostin wanted his wife to meet her, but that didn't happen. But I thought, well, it's nice that you, because he's told her stories. And so he wanted her to see.
And yes, they're all real.
Yep. I want to hold the baby.
On to the new life.
Maybe it's baby.
Well, she's sleeping, so.
Here, you want to put your rocking away?
And everybody's welcome, Bill and Debbie.
What?
Afterward, please come over.
Yeah.
All I did.
Did you make the table?